Folks, welcome to today's session. My name is Kurt Kresick, and I'm honored to serve as Dean for the School of Education at Regent University. With us today, we have an expert in adult education. He's going to talk to us about useful online resources for all learners. His name is Dr. Finn. He's an associate professor in the School of Education and is currently the president of the Coalition on Adult Basic Education, COAB, that represents over 65,000 adult educators and administrators nationally. Now, Dr. Finn has been an educator for nearly 30 years, teaching at grade levels including middle and high school, adult night school, university, and professional development for educators in local, state, and national settings. He holds a BS in social sciences and an MS in curriculum instruction with an adult education emphasis and a PhD in adult learning and organizational development. He is currently a licensed Virginia teacher. Dr. Finn serves as chair of the Regent School of Education programs in curriculum and instruction, educational technology and online learning, and adult education. So again, we welcome you, and I will turn it over to Dr. Finn.
Thank you, Kurt. Thank you for that introduction. I appreciate that, and welcome everybody. It's my pleasure to host today's session and to share just a little bit about online resources that will be hopefully helpful for all educators, students, and teachers in private settings and so on, and also for parents. I have a number of sites that I'm going to share with you in my presentation, and also some principles for finding some decent, relevant, and well-vetted websites in education. And so the resources will be made available at the end of our series. I think I'm kind of in the middle right now of the presentations, and so we have a number of presentations on a number of different topics, and hope that you will be able to join us for the rest of them as well. But these resources will be made available to you at the end of the entire series. And so let me talk about just a few things first of all. So, you know, one of the things that we know is that not all websites are necessarily reliable, relevant, or really pertinent to the topics that you are looking for. And so I want to share a few principles about how to choose websites for educational applications. This is information is adapted from the Family Online Safety Institute, which is a very good organization that has really their main thrust, I guess, or their main emphasis is to ensure that that resources are family friendly and so on. And so there are three principles that they share, global principles, to try to help you weed through those websites that are not equal, because they're not all created equal. You know, the three principles are to review the web address, to consider the refer, and also to identify the authority. And so with the first principle, review the website, you know, one of the things that is actually pretty convenient in our society is purchasing a website address, a web domain is very simple. Anybody can purchase one, and which is nice for the sharing of information. However, we do know that you know, some of the websites are not very valuable or useful in the for the purposes that they may even say that they are. And so judging which web addresses are legitimate and valuable is sometimes confusing. But there are some basic principles that you can look at to help to determine if a web address, if a website is valuable for educational applications. And so the first thing is to review website address. So first of all, there are many different types of URLs, Uniform Resource Locator, or web addresses. And the extensions under which those web addresses exist or are formed can tell you a lot about the website. So for example, if you have a web address that ends in .edu, that is a site that is affiliated with a higher education institution. .edu means that it's a higher education institution, such as regent.edu and other higher education institutions. And so if you see something that comes from an edu website, chances are it has gone through a process to validate the contents and so on. .gov or .gov means that it is a federal government website, and so that is in the U.S., and that means it's a federal government website that could be, for example, like Department of Education.gov, for example, whitehouse.gov. Those resources are sponsored by and are put together by a federal agency, and so they all have their specific purposes. For example, irs.gov. Now that we have filing extensions and so on, many of you may be familiar with irs.gov. That has a very specific purpose. .org websites, and you may have seen many of those, are websites that are affiliated with organizations, and those organizations have various missions and visions and purposes. The .orgs are nonprofit or not-for-profit or advocacy organizations, and again, many of those have a national followership. They have a national presence, an international presence, and so on. So generally speaking, you can find, you can see that those are those websites generally going to bring value to the table. Now, so it lends itself to the question now, well, are .com websites bad, or are they accurate, or whatever? Well, the .com world, if you will, tend to that's the broadest spectrum, if you will, of websites and web domain names, and so they're also very easy to purchase. And so it doesn't necessarily mean that a .com is a bad website address, but you need to be a little bit more discerning when you're looking at the content that is provided on a .com address. Now, of course, there are others, .us, .info. Then there are .eu for the European Union, and others that are associated, .de for Denmark, for example, that are associated with foreign nations and so on. So that's where you have to be a little bit more with those. If you're looking for specific information on a country or an international organization, it's not such a bad thing, but you still need to be discerning to ensure that you are going somewhere, going to a website that is going to provide you with the information you're looking for. So moving on, when you're thinking about the websites, the second principle is consider the site referrer. So as you're looking at the site referrer, for example, who recommended the site? Now, I'm hopeful that as we get to the different websites that I'll be presenting on and just provide a little bit of an overview today, I'm hopeful that you will consider these sites to be somewhat legitimate, that the referrer, me, provided you with websites that will be useful for you as you are presenting, and so that will help you then to determine, do you trust the individual or the content? Are they a professional in their industry, in this realm, education, and do they use the website regularly? The second principle is, did you find the site through social media? Now, let me just talk about that just a little bit. When you're looking at social media, there are various social media outlets. Many of us use Facebook. There could be Twitter, Instagram, but many different social media outlets, and oftentimes we belong to different social media groups because we have an affinity for them. We can connect with their purpose and their mission and so on. However, we can also you can also find that there's a lot of very inaccurate information that is out there. For example, it makes me think of Betty White. Now, Betty White, an acting icon, in this country, and really what started in, I believe, was about 2012 or so, when I think she was 90 years old. Around her 90th birthday, it was reported that Betty White died. And that's kind of become an annual event. It seems that Betty White dies every year, and so that's put up on different social media platforms and is also affiliated with different websites and so on. And of course, I wonder what's going to happen when Betty White does pass, with the, will we actually trust that information and so on. But we do need to look at the source of that information. And to determine if they are a reliable source. So considering the site referrer is a very very important step in determining the value of websites and web-based resources, and then identifying the authority. So again, these are all related, but who owns or sponsors the site? And if the owner or the sponsor of that site is one who may be deemed as legitimate because they come through an EDU, for example, or a GOV extension. For example, I'm going to share from the Virginia Department of Education. So that is a site, obviously, that is a vetted site and a resource. So they own or they sponsor the site. Now, are they supplying the information? Well, many of the sites do have original information and resources that they do supply, and that information generally from those sites is pretty good. But now then you look at linking of information, and so a number of the sites that I'm going to show you today have linked information. They link to other sites to share other resources and so on. If it comes from an identified trusted authority or trusted source, then they are considered to be, a legitimate and trusted referrer. And so hopefully they have vetted the sites to which they link. Okay, but ultimately you really need to do your homework, and in doing your homework, you have to look at is the person or the group who referred the website or hosts the website, can you do a web search in their name, whether it's an individual or an organization? Can you conduct a web search that will provide you with consistent information, for example, about an article or about the usefulness of resources and usefulness of websites? Can you find corroborating information that will help you to to verify that these are useful and that these are legitimate websites? Okay, so you do have to do your homework. You can't just necessarily blindly trust that you're going to get into some good information. So I want to go ahead now and take a little bit of time to look at some social sciences websites. Particularly, we're going to look at social science related websites. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about some tools that can help to facilitate success for students, some hands-on things. So when you're looking at social sciences, and again, as Dr. Kresick mentioned in the introduction, I was a social studies teacher, a middle and high school social studies teacher back at the beginning of my education career, and still hold my certificate and so on. But the social sciences materials that are available that I have used throughout the years, not only as a teacher, but also as a parent, I found many excellent resources, and I am just really chipping at the tip of the iceberg to provide you with some that I feel have been generally reliable. It's not necessarily a full endorsement, so to speak, but I do find them to be generally reliable, and I hope you will find is that as you go through and look at these different resources, that you're going to find that they are useful, and that they're going to provide you with some helpful tips and so on. So what I'm going to do now, if you give me just a moment, I'm going to shift my screen here, and I'm going to go ahead and share some of these websites directly from my desktop. So the first one is going to be, the first one that I had mentioned there is the Virginia Department of Education. And this particular website, this is the website for the History and Social Science Standards of Learning. And for parents in particular who are working with their students at home, if they have some questions about the various standards of learning and the assignments that, or the competencies and so on that their students might have, you can find them right here at the web address. Again, it's doe.virginia.gov, and then it goes through. You can see here, if you just go to doe.virginia.gov, you have all different types of menu items off to the left-hand side in the menu, and this is under standards of learning. and testing. And so you can see here that the standards of learning are all available as Word documents, and these Word documents when you click on them, they will download to your computer automatically, and then you can open them up. They are all arranged by grade, and they are all arranged by subject level as well. So as you get into the upper grades in middle school and in high school, you can see the various competencies that are required there. And so this lays it out for you. So I hope that you will find that to be a useful tool or a useful resource. Now I'm going to stop sharing that, and I'm going to run to the next one, which is a subset of that, which is the Virginia History and Social Sciences resources, also on the Virginia Department of Education webpage. And so you can see over here on the left-hand column, that is under the Instruction tab. Okay, so I was under Standards of Learning and Testing, and right below that is the Instruction tab. And so the Standards of Learning and SOL assessments, and then there are various divisions of the materials and links to materials. For example, under Civil Rights Education. There are many very good links here for outside resources. Now, I will tell you that managing these types of websites is a very large task, and so you may find from time to time as you visit this site, this is for social studies, and you may visit it for other competencies as well, that some of these web links may not work. They may be out of date, and so this is something I know that folks struggle with. And you can see just the number of resources that are made available here on this website. That the state is really trying to provide you, teachers, parents, and students with some very good and very high quality information. But from time to time, you may run into a bad link, an outdated link, or a dead link. So I just want to make you aware of that. Okay, so let me go back now, and I'm going to go ahead and pull the PowerPoint presentation back up so that you can see where we are here. And again, this information will be made available to you. So those first two sites that I showed you were under the Virginia Standards of Learning. And now I want to share a few other websites that are from other organizations that are excellent organizations as it relates to social. To go to the Smithsonian Educator Resources, and those particular resources, of course, you probably have heard of the Smithsonian. If you've ever had the pleasure of going to Washington, D.C. and visiting their museums and so on, they are just an outstanding resource for excellent materials and so on. And so I'm going to click on the educator resources, and so you can see here on this site that this is through the Smithsonian. These are educator resources that are specifically put together for educators that provide educators with materials that they can use in their classrooms. You can see off to the right-hand side, you can explore by various interests. And what's wonderful about the Smithsonian is that this particular page, again, this is the Educators Resources site. This particular site here will take you to the various Smithsonian museums and the various collections that they have. So as I go over, for example, collections, open access, and Smithsonian, and then for educators, there are various resources. This is information, by the way, for field trips to the actual Smithsonian museums. So anyway, but the point of this particular site is that as you scroll down, you can see the various resources that they have available. Now, the Smithsonian Learning Lab is a very nice tool. Just clicked on that link. It's a very nice tool and a very nice site that provides educators and their learners with a variety of different resources that they can use for putting together projects, for learning more about different topics and so on. And so the Discover tab here in particular, and so as we scroll down, this provides you with information on resources and collections and so on. And you'll notice, you may notice, I'm not sure if you can see it or not, but the web address for this particular one is, it's not showing on the screen, but it's learninglab.si.edu. So SI is for Smithsonian Institution, and then EDU. So I clicked to that link. Again, that was from the Educator Resources page, which is located on the presentation. But you can see here again the different tools that can be used for educators, for curriculum developers, for media specialists, and so on. So there's a variety of wonderful tools that are available through the Smithsonian. You can see, for example, the African American Museum, African American Art Museum, Air and Space, which is probably one of my favorites. Many excellent resources there. But as you keep going down, you have all of these links to these resources and so on. If you have a student, a learner who might be, who might need to do a report or put together an e-portfolio or an e-report on historical figures, the National Portrait Gallery is a wonderful resource. And you can see all of the teacher guides that are here. These are for educators and for parents and so on. So I'm clicking on American President's Educational Resources, and you can see then that, again, this is face-to-face here, and it's talking about visiting the Smithsonian, but if you click on the links, you can see the various things that are just so neat. For example, the life mask of Lincoln. I had the opportunity when I was a social studies teacher to visit the Virginia History Museum in Richmond and got a backstage tour, if you will, and got to see the life mask, one of the life masks of Robert E. Lee. And these were done for future portraits and so on. It's just really cool stuff. But still, in a virtual setting, you can see there's a variety, there's a tremendous amount of information that is available to educators that educators can use in and I'm sorry, it doesn't look like that thing, but if you click on the President's Education Resources page, it'll show you there. I apologize, it didn't show the link when it broke out, but there are some wonderful resources there as well. So going back now, so that's a sample of items that you can find at the Smithsonian. Moving on now to the different educator resources. I also have a link here to the YouTube site for the Smithsonian. Now, the YouTube site is very interesting too, because they have a variety of different resources that you can use in your classroom and that you can refer students to that have different video applications. They tell different stories and so on. And so looking at their Smithsonian Education YouTube site, which will come up in just a moment, you can see that this particular site has all different types of things. If any of you use YouTube, you can see that the menu is located right here, and it shows so many different types of resources. For example, if I click right here at the top on the videos, you can see some of the latest videos. In fact, there's a live video that's happening right now. And this is one that is actually in Spanish. But you can see a variety of different resources that are available here and videos that are here. They show you in YouTube fashion the different times that those videos run, if they're a 5-minute video, if they are a 30-minute video, and so on. So a lot of very interesting resources here and supplemental resources here that would be very useful for your learners and for you as teachers alike. So hopefully those will provide you with some useful links and activities for your learners. So moving right along here, let me go ahead and jump in and show you the next slide. So biography.com is a wonderful site. Now, you may have the Biography channel as part of your TV lineup, but they have some wonderful resources. And then, of course, PBS and the National Geographic Society. So I'm going to go ahead and jump back on to the websites here, to show you some of the websites very quickly, because we're, as is typical with these types of presentations, they run fast. So let me go ahead and pull up some of these websites that I've referred to. So the first one is going to be Biography, and Biography is, again, as we know, it is a TV channel, but it has some wonderful resources on all kinds of characters. So, for example, these video resources are showing you various entertainers and so on. If you go down, there's a few more. And we can get to some of the historic figures as well, including Eddie Murphy, but President Bush, and so on. And what you can do here is you can actually conduct a general search. And let me see if I can. I'm going to see if I can get some information on Florence Nightingale because of this. Oh, here we go. So because of this pandemic and so on, you may have an assignment that requires your learner to perhaps talk about medical related issues and so on. And so you can see here that there are a variety of different. So this particular one says person, and so when you click on that one, you can see that there is a brief biography here with Florence Nightingale talking about who she was, what was her early life, and so on. Now, I know that a lot of students may jump into resources such as Wikipedia and so on, and Wikipedia is an open resource, an open air resource, if you will, free resource, but it is built by the it is put together by the users. And so one of the issues there is people can jump in and can edit and so on, but they may not necessarily be able to, they may not be very authoritative. And so that's one of the things that you want to be very mindful of. And so using a resource such as Biography is going to be useful for, it's going to be more reliable, if you will, because it has been vetted. Let me go now to the National Geographic Society. I'm sure you've heard of National Geographic. It is a wonderful resource. Again, this particular site, National Geographic, tends to focus more on issues related to geography as well as history. And this particular site is there. This is under the classroom resources with mapping, and this gives the opportunity for students to download. For example, you can use the map generator here and download and print various maps of various places around the world and so on that can then be used and integrated into assignments and into tasks and so on. Another very good resource under National Geographic, and I'm going to pull that up here. Thank you for your patience as I'm madly clicking behind the scenes here. Is here we go. The various classroom resources through National Geographic. And so what's nice is you can do all kinds of things. You can do a search right here. You can look for various resources, activities, for example, articles, infographics, lessons, maps, units, videos, and so on. And you can actually then look for resources and retrieve resources based on grade level. And you can also do the various things. As you can see, National Geographic we associate with geography, but there's earth science, biology, social studies, anthropology, and so on. So nationalgeographic.org/education/classroom-resources. Again, this is linked on the PowerPoint presentation. Is an excellent resource for independent student use as well as teachers and parents. Okay, so let me go back to the PowerPoint presentation and we'll go to the next category. We are going to open the floor for some questions here near the end. We had to disable that feature for a little bit, but we're going to go ahead and open it up for questions in just a little bit. But let me go ahead and pull up this slide. So Civics education is another part of social sciences that is very important, and it's part of the Virginia Standards of Learning, as well as world history. And then I have some resources from WHRO. For those of you who are in our local Hampton Roads area, they have some resources actually that they have just opened up for open access because of the coronavirus situation. And so let me go and jump in again to the resources here, and to pull up the next, let me see. Okay, so here's a site, Virginia Civics Activities. Now, this particular site, you can it comes from virginiagovernmentmatters.org, and virginiagovernmentmatters.org. This is actually a site that is linked through the Social Studies and Social Sciences page of the Virginia Standards of Learning, and this provides you with a variety of different resources and activities related specifically to Virginia government. And so you can see here, I clicked on the link to the governor, and it says, well, the governor wears many hats. And as you look through that website, you can see the different links to activities. I think pair share activity, for example. A second activity down here is provide students with a copy of the Constitution of Virginia, and it's also available online. And so that's one of those links. Inevitably, in a live presentation, as I click on that, it says that it's a bad link, but still, those resources are available, as well for teachers, for students, and for parents. And so you definitely want to be keep an eye on those types of and look out for those types of linked resources, again, that they come from reliable sources. Let me jump ahead real quick to the to some resources. These resources are from Teach for America. And Teach for America is a wonderful organization that puts teachers in various harder to serve communities and so on. But this particular website provides information on world history resources. And you can see that there are various lessons. If you click on the link right here, the hyperlinks on this site are underlined. There are different world history lessons and so on that are available to the users. The nice thing too about these sites that I'm taking you to is the vast majority of these sites are free to the user, and so that's very important, that you can jump in and you don't need to have any sort of a paid membership. Now, I'm going to jump on to WHRO, as I mentioned. What was interesting was one of my current dissertation students works for WHRO and saw the announcement for this webinar and said, hey, this is great. I want you to know that WHRO actually opened up some of our digital learning courses during the corona virus and corona pandemic, rather. And so they have opened their site to the general public, and you can look at various resources based on courses. So again, this is not just history and social sciences, but these are also resources for many different topic areas here in education. So I definitely encourage you to go and check that out, the WHRO site. And let me see, there's one more site that I'd like to show you, and that is also with WHRO, that does provide some very nice resources, and then we're going to open this up for some questions. The final site is EMediaVa. This particular PBS-sponsored site is very nice as well, because it has over 163,000 learning objects, and so you can click here with the looking at the SOLs, and so if you click on that down arrow, it will show you the different SOLs, so you can see the menu is there. And the nice thing about this is that you can go down and you can click in whichever whichever SOL you want to. Let's go History and Social Sciences 2015. Okay, and so it's going to provide you, then you have, let's see if we can find anything that is video, and let's go ahead and do this for, let's say, 7th grade. to 9th grade, and let's see what we can find. All right, and let's click go and see what we get here. So you can see there are a number of references that come up, a number of different sites that come up, and these are all video-based sites that are related to the SOLs from grade 7 through grade 9. So again, this is a very nice interactive activity. Of course, we know that the public TV stations here in Virginia are co-owned by the school divisions and so on, and so they have a vested interest in ensuring that these materials are available to our teachers and learners here in the Commonwealth. So moving now right along, we're getting to the point to where the last part is tools to facilitate success. And so for many of these activities, graphic organizers and those types of tools are available to students. So there are many that are available. I have 2 that I want to show you real fast because I know we started a little late, but we're also running over a little bit. So I don't want to take too much more of your time, and I do want to provide an opportunity for folks to jump in and ask any questions that they might have. So the first site that I want to share here is graphic organizers from a site called the Teacher Toolkit. And graphic organizers, as we know, they are very useful tools to help students to express knowledge and to show links and to show connections and so on. And so as you scroll down, you can see here there are different tips and pointers on how to use them and so on. And so let's say, for example, sorry, that was, let me see, here we go, an analogy. So let's do an analogy type of thing. And so when you click on that, it actually downloads a Word document, okay? So I can't show that to you right now because it's not showing it doesn't show those as they break open. But trust me, these are ready to use types of resources that you can pull there and that your students can use. Okay, let me see. Finally, let me go. There's one more site that I want to share that has graphic organizers. And again, thanks for hanging in there with me, folks. This particular site is, the interesting thing about this is Education Place. Now, this is a site that is sponsored by Houghton, Mifflin, Harcourt, which is a publisher. Yet these are all free resources, and so these particular resources are intended and are open whether or not your student is or your school is subscribes to and is using the different textbooks and so on. So these you can see because they open up as PDF files, and so different types of graphic organizers that help students to demonstrate links and comprehension and so on. So anyway, I know that was a speed round for sure, and kind of like drinking out of a fire hose. I kind of feel like I'm managing the fire hose here, but I do want to provide any time that we can open up the floor to determine if anybody has any questions and so on. So I know Rachel is going to be managing that process. So if you have a question, Rachel, do you want to tell folks how to go ahead and pose their question?
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Finn. You're welcome to type your questions in the chat so that Dr. Finn is able to hear your questions. I'll be happy to read them for you, and we'll go from there.
Okay, and the chat, the posting chat messages window is now live, so you should be able to see that. You should be able to post your questions in chat if anybody has any. Yes, I see that question, Gretchen. Yes, you can get these in a document. There's going to be, at the end of the series, we are going to have the resources, the PowerPoint presentations, as well as documents that include the web links and so on that are going to be sent out to you. So those will be made available to you. I believe our webinar series ends next week, so after that, I believe that's when a site is going to go up, and y'all will be, everybody will be notified of that. You're welcome, Gretchen. Okay, thank you, Jurgen. I appreciate that. Thank you. Glad it was helpful. Anybody else? Thanks, Gretchen. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Don, if I may, I tell you what, I appreciate you mentioning all these are free, which is key.
Yeah.
But I can see K-12 teachers right now, if they're thinking about sites like this, especially what we have in our environment with kids at home. What a great way to do web quests for kids.
Yes.
To have them go to a certain website, research a historical figure, and then from there go to another site and develop their own web quest. So it's great resources. I love the presentation.
Thank you. Yes, and I agree with you, sir. The WebQuest, that is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for students to really dig in and to get to know those things. And one of the reasons why I like the Smithsonian and National Geographic in particular is because of the historical nature that they have with photos and with different video clips and those types of things that are very useful. So yeah, thanks for adding that. I do agree, indeed. Are there any other questions? You are very welcome. Very welcome. Okay, well, great. Well, again, thank you so very much for joining the webinar today. Really appreciate you taking time out of your day. And my email address is dfin@regent.edu if you have any questions. And again, these resources will be posted soon. So thanks so much for joining us.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Finn. Everyone have a great day. God bless.